Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. While you're here, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. My name is Teresa Harper and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'm located in Oregon in the United States. And I'm here to share a 3D project for you, and I've made this one into a 4th of July treat. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm continuing on with my Friends for Life bundle for this week. This is on sale for an additional 10% off when you buy both pieces in the bundle using the bundle code. You will receive an additional 10% off of the current bundle price, and that lasts until June 30th, 2024. So if you're watching this after that time, that sale has ended. I'm sorry. But we're going to go ahead and use this. We are not using the dies today. However, you can go back at the video that I posted on Wednesday, June 25th, and see the cards that I've made using both pieces together. Instead, I'm going to combine the Friends for Life stamp set with the Greetings excuse me, of the Season stamp set, and we're going to be using this die right here. Now, this particular die set goes with Greetings of the Season stamps, and that is a bundle that will be offered beginning July 3rd as an online exclusive. And this is the Greetings of the Season stamp set that goes along with this die set. And you can purchase these in a bundle and save 10% over the individual purchase prices of the two pieces. Okay? That's the way all of our bundles are when they are released. You save 10% off of the individual piece price combined. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to, first thing, we're going to put this aside, and we are going to put the stamp set aside, and we're going to bring in some cardstock, and we're going to be using basic white for this. This is just a scrap piece of basic white, and I'm going to cut this die out of that. Now, it's a very close piece, my scrap is here, so I'm going to go ahead and use just a piece of Post-it note tape so that I can make sure that this does not move through my machine, and then it doesn't fit. Okay, so we're going to grab that, and we're going to grab our mini machine. This too is on sale for 10% through June 30th, 2024. You can check that out on my website at teresaharper.stampinup.net. And we are going to go ahead and put this in and run that through. And that looks like it should just fit. Okay, then we'll set our machine aside because we're done die cutting. This really is a pretty quick and easy project that you can whip out a bunch of in no time at all. Okay, so we're going to set that aside too, making sure that we don't lose it. And then we're going to bring in our Simply Scored scoring tool, and we're going to score this piece along with another piece of cardstock. So let's start with this one. I'm going to put this one all the way up to the top here and all the way to the left, and then I'm going to give that I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to take my stylus tool and I'm going to score that at 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to flip it 180 degrees and score it again at 1.5 inches. Okay. Then this piece of basic white cardstock is 4 inches by 4 5/8 inches. And we're going to put this in. It doesn't matter how you put it in. We're going to score it on all 4 sides at 3/4 and 1 1/2. Rotate, 3/4, 1 1/2. Rotate, 3/4, 1 1/2. And finally, 3/4 and 1 1/2. Okay. And then this is the piece that we'll have. Let me go ahead and put my scoring tool away. Okay, so now I'm going to fold and burnish on all of these score lines. One left. Okay. Now let's go ahead and trim this piece up. I'm going to bring in my paper snips, and I like to do mine on the back side. So on the 4 5/8 inch side, you've got this longer rectangle, and then you've got 4 squares. What we're going to do is we're going to actually cut up all of these score lines to the second horizontal score line. Okay, so I'm going to cut all of those right up to that second horizontal so that it looks like this. Then I'm going to flip it 180 degrees, and I'm going to repeat that on this side, snipping up all of those score lines to the second horizontal. Okay. Okay, so we've got those all liberated. Now I'm going to go to the short side and I'm going to cut off these 2 squares just like that. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side and remove those squares. Okay. Then I'm going to flip it 180 degrees and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut off those 2 squares and these 2 squares so that my box looks like this. Okay. Now I'm going to fold those 2 center pieces in, and this time we're going to only cut off the outside square. Okay, and we're going to leave that inside square as a tab. And then I'm going to flip that 180 degrees and I'm going to repeat that same process again, taking only the outside square. And then I'm going to turn this and give this just a little bit of an angle cut. Okay. And I'm going to do that on all 4 of these tabs, both sides. Those 2, then I'll flip it 180 and I'll repeat that process, removing those tiny slivers of cardstock. Okay. Now, let's get rid of that mess to the garbage can. And this is what our box looks like at this point. Now, we're going to go ahead and on these outside pieces where you have the double, we're going to just take, and again, I'm going to take just the tiniest sliver off of each one because these are going to be our reinforced sides of our box, and when they tuck in, we want to make sure that they don't get caught. So we're going to do that with all 4 of these outside pieces right here. Just a teeny tiny amount. You can see here that there's just the smallest little bit just enough so that the sides don't scrape when you tuck them in. Okay, so now our box is ready to put together. I'm going to grab some tear and tape, and on this is the outside of our box, and this is the inside of our box. So on the inside, on these outside areas that we just trimmed, we're going to put a piece of tear and tape on all 4 sides, just on this outer piece. We're just going to keep rotating until we have our tear and tape at the end. We want to put it at the outside end. Of those rectangles and squares. Okay, so now we've got those. I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool, which is an invaluable tool for me. You'll find that in my online store. And I'm just going to remove that wax paper backing on the double-sided tear and tape. And I've got all 4 pieces removed. And now I'm going to take these tabs here, like this, and I'm going to fold them to the center. These are going to form the sides of our box. I'm folding these back out of the way. And then I'm going to take and fold up one side, making sure that I keep those box sides tight. Okay, so I want to push in to the side and then pinch with my fingers. Okay, and that secures those sides of that box with that tear and tape. I'm going to repeat that on this side. So I'm pushing those in, pushing that up, making sure that I'm holding those box sides tight. And then I'll give that a press. And then I will make sure that I go back with my bone folder and really burnish that tear and tape in. Okay, now you could use liquid glue if you prefer. And that would hold nicely. Now all I need to do is push my 2 end pieces in. And again, I will take my bone folder and burnish those in well. Okay, so here's my box. It will hold 3 Andes mints. You might be able to get a 4th one in there depending on whether you can get a thinner one. These are just right. And now we're going to bring back in what will become the outside cover of our box, or a book cover, okay? So we're going to start with this piece, and we are going to bring in Real Red and Night of Navy ink. Okay, let's get this down here where you can see it. Okay. And then from the Friends of Life stamp set, we're going to take this stamp right here that looks like a little paint swoosh. And we're going to add this to our card. Okay, so I'm going to start with Real Red. And it doesn't matter which way you put your stamp. And I'm going to put some Real Red in here at the top there. And then I'm going to put some in the middle, in that middle section. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom here, leaving a space in between so that I can add some Night of Navy ink. So I can set that aside. Now I need to clean this. So I'm going to bring in a chamois cloth. And I'm going to give that a good wipe. Okay. And then I'm going to pat it to dry it. And add my Night of Navy ink. So now I'm going to take the opposite direction of how I went before. So I started with this little piece to the right. So now I'm going to rotate that to the left. And I'm going to fill in that space. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and clean that off real quick and set it aside. All right, now in the meantime, we're going to let that dry for just a minute. And I'm going to bring in some scrap paper. And I have the petal pink and white diagonal trim combo here, and I'm using the white. And I'm going to take about 6 inches, because that's all I'm going to need. That might be a little even generous. You could maybe get away with 5. And then I'm going to color this with my dark Real Red Stampin' Blend. And I'm going to use the brush tip. And all I need to do is run my marker across my ribbon flat. I'm not using the tip. I'm using the side of my marker. Okay. And then on this particular ribbon, it's helpful to do both sides. Okay. Now we can set that aside to dry. And we'll bring that back in because it's an alcohol marker that will work wonderfully. Now we've got this piece. We're going to bring it back in. And before I do anything else, I'm going to fold this on the score lines. Okay. Now you can see that this was tag and it has a hole here. We need to put one down here. So I'm going to fold this together just like this. And then if you don't have a 1/8 inch hole punch, you can use take your pick tool and a Stampin' Pierce mat, and you can pierce that through. I myself have a 1/8 inch hole punch, so I'm going to bring that in. This is an old retired Stampin' Up one, but you can get them at the store, at a big box store, or even on Amazon. And I'm just going to take my 1/8 inch hole punch, line that up, and punch it. Now I've got my pieces, both holes, for my ribbon, okay? Because that's how we're going to close our box. So now I'm going to decide what I want to be the top and what I want to be the bottom. So this is going to be my top. And we're going to do a little bit of embossing. So I'm going to bring in my Embossing Additions toolkit. Okay. And it comes with an embossing buddy. And this embossing buddy helps the embossing powder not stick where you don't want it. Okay. So I've done that. I've got my reverse tweezers to help me. And I've got the Wow Opaque Bright White Regular Embossing Powder. This comes in a 3-pack with clear gloss and primary ebony. And this is available in the Stampin' Up! Online store. Okay, so again, I'm making sure I've got my white. I've got that set. Now I'm going to bring in the thank you from Friends of Life right here. And as you can see, this is way too long for my box piece here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Versamark. And there is plenty of distance between the thank and the you. So I'm going to bring this in. And I'm just going to put my thank on my pad, on the edge of my pad, so that the U is not getting ink. Now, if you're worried about that, put a piece of Post-it tape or a piece of Scotch tape right over that U, and then ink it and then pull the tape before you put it on your project. So now I'm going to take this. I'm going to put that back down so it'll lay flat. And then I'm going to take Thank. And I'm just going to ink that up. Let that sit for a minute. Then I need to clean Thank so I don't get any ink where I don't want it the next time. So I'm going to clean that really nicely. And I'm going to pat it all nice and dry. And then I'm going to repeat that process, but this time with the U. Okay, and I'm not going to ink the Thank. And then we're going to place the U right here. All right. Now, you can see a little bit of the Thank there. And you could take your embossing buddy over that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid that completely when I pour on my powder. Okay? And then I don't have to worry about it. And if I get any powder there, I can always wipe it off with my brush. Okay, so I've got that. Now let's go ahead and set that out of the way. I'm going to bring in my paintbrush. Your embossing tool kit actually comes with a brush. It's a pretty wide brush. And I find sometimes it's just not thin enough. So I like to take a thinner paintbrush that I got specifically before we even had the Embossing Editions toolkit, because I don't want any extra white where I don't want it. So I'm going to take this very thin paintbrush and wipe away any excess that I don't want. Okay. And then I'm going to bring back in those reverse tweezers, and I'm going to hold my piece and I'm going to heat set this with my heat tool. But I'm going to go ahead and heat up that heat tool for just a second. And then I like to put it on the back because the heat will warp the paper a bit. And so I find if I heat the back and then go to the front, it doesn't warp as bad. Okay, so now I can turn off my heat tool because that is heat set. And it went from a dull, powdery look to a shiny white. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go ahead and put our box on. We're going to take this. This is the front of our box, and this is going to be the back. And we're going to take that box that we created earlier. This is a Tombow Mono Adhesive Liquid Glue in a fine tip glue bottle that my friend gave me. And I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the bottom. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it right next to the score line. And I want to make sure that I can close that. So I want to hold on to that with my finger and then make sure that's going to close. Okay. And then when I've got it lined up, right and left, top and bottom, I'm just going to take my bone folder and set that glue. Okay. So now here's our little box, perfectly lined up, ready to go. Okay. So now we can go ahead and put those candies back in. And let's close our box. I'm going to bring back in that ribbon that we colored. And this ribbon, once you color it, gets a little bit stiff, so I like to take my bone folder. You could take a paintbrush or your pencil or pen and just run that along, and then that softens that ribbon back up. Okay? So when I cut this, I cut it at an angle, and I'm just going to feed that angle through the front hole. And then to the back. So in the front and then inside to the back. I like to make sure that now with this particular ribbon, it does have a texture on the one side. So I'm going to go ahead and twist this so that when I put this together, I have the two fronts facing out. And then I'm going to take those reverse tweezers again, and I'm going to hold that in place, making sure that I do that right in the center here. I want to make sure I grab this in the center with that, and then I'm going to lay it flat. And then I'm going to bring in some Natural Tones linen thread. This will not be available until September. It's a real early sneak peek that demonstrators who attended a Creativity Now event with Stampin' Up! Were able to pre-purchase early. But you could use white baker's twine, which you will find in the Essentials baker's twine pack. It's a pack of 5 different colors. And it does have basic white, so that would work. Okay, but I'm going to use this because I've got it and I like it. And then I'm just going to tie a little bow around that ribbon to hold that in place. And then I'll hold the center of my knot. I'm going to pull that just a bit, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side until I get those loops the way I want them. And then I'm going to trim that off. And then I'm going to trim my ribbon pieces at an angle. And now let's go ahead and embellish that, and we're almost done. So I've got the iridescent faceted gems. These are item code 163368. And again, I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to use the putty end. And let's take one of these, put it over here. Then I'm going to take a larger one, set it down here, and go back to a smaller one and put it up here. And there is our little 4th of July treat box that I can set at a table for a picnic. Okay, what do you think about that? I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry this isn't live this week, but I do have a prior engagement when I should be live. So I will see you back here again next Thursday night live at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, leave me a comment, and let me know if you will be using these for a favor for your table. Of course, you can make these for any occasion. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. Good night.